they say. This is a quote from a American Indian or a Red Indian, you can say. They said that only to the white man was the nature wilderness, and only to him it was infested with wild animals, and its people were savage. To us, it was tame. The earth was bountiful, and we were surrounded with the blessings of the great mystery. This is how everybody else has looked upon. All the ancient civil cultures, they have looked upon the forest and the people of forest. We find one as a beautiful place. So all our heroes, the heroes of Ramayana and Mahabharata, Ram and Lakshman and Sita and Draupadi and the Yudhishthir and Bhim and Arjun, they all go to the forest for Vanavas. They also are Vanavasi for some time in their life. So our heroes go to the Vana. Our heroes go to the forest. They live there, they stay there. And then we are, our life, it has three milestones, you can say. There is one part which is the Brahmacharya ashram, where one learns in Gurukuls. And then there is one part which is Grihastha ashram, which is like, the professional life, the married life. And then the third part, which is the retired life, it is Vanaprastha ashram. It is supposed to be, lived in the forest. And even the Vedas have like, 4 books, 4 parts. So one part is the Samhita part. The second part is the Brahmana Grantha. The third part is the Aranyaka, and the fourth part is the Upanishads. One part of the Veda, which is the Aranyaka, these books are to be studied in the Aranya. You go to the solitude of Aranya, and there you study these books. Pujantam Rama Rameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakham Vande Valmiki Kokilam. He is the Kokila who is singing the name of Ram, the Madhurakshar of Ram. And he writes the Ramakatha. So wherever you go in India, whether it is in Rajasthan, whether it is in Gujarat, whether it is in Northeast, whether it is in Deep South, all not only the urban people, but the Vanavasis will also connect themselves to Ram. They have their own stories of Ram. They have their own stories of the Ramayana in their oral traditions, which are handed down from one generation to the other. And thus, I would just end on a note saying that if there is one story which unites us across India, north to south, east to west, the urbans, the rurals, and the Vanavasis, all of them together, it is the story of Ramayana. I'm glad to be back over here. Last time, I think I spoke about the Ramayana of South India. And today, I'm going to talk about some of the stories from Vanavasi Ramayana, or what one would call, in English as the tribal Ramayanas. So before as we begin, we'll just take a look at what this actually means, what it means for us, what is urban, what is rural and tribal. So this is what we are told. This is the Western definition, that urban is a developed city and a developed town. Whereas when we say rural, it means that it is the countryside, which is an underdeveloped area. While tribal is primitive. So these are the people who live in the woods, and they are kind of, hunter-gatherer people, and they are not literate, and they don't have industries. These are non-industrial societies. This is the Western view of what tribal means. Because we are going to look at the tribal Ramayanas today, I think we should take a look at what is the view of what actually tribal means, what Vanavasi means. So this Western definition of the people who live in the forest is tribes. They are tribal people who don't have a culture, you can say, who don't have a civilization, something like that. Now, these type of people, we will find them all over the world. So they are the people who do not live in cities and towns. So we have the Romas of Europe. So sometime around 10th century, there were many communities from India who left India, and it's a speculation that when there were Islamic attacks on India, the Arabs and uh, the Central Asians, they attacked India. Many tribes went out of India, and these were called as the Romans. So they went from India to the Europe, and in Europe, they they lived the life of communities who went from one place to the other. So they would go to one place, they would camp over there, they would stay over there for some time, and then with the change of season, they would just move away from there to other places. So these are nomadic tribes, you can say. And these nomadic tribes of Europe, they were derogatively called as the gypsies. And uh, a new word was coined for them. It was called as the gypsy problem. So these people, they were branded as criminals. So any small robbery takes place anywhere in Europe, the first people who would be on the police radar were the Romas, or they were the gypsies. And they were persecuted. They were persecuted in all the European countries, all the European countries. Around the time of the Second World War, they were exiled, they were massacred, they were killed in the Nazi concentration camps. And around the Second World War, about 15 lakh um, gypsies were killed. This is the status, this is how Europe treated its nomadic tribes. This is how Europe treated its nomadic people. So now, when they came to India and they looked at the people who were living in the forest, they call them tribes, they call them tribal people, and exactly the way they treated their own people, their own tribal people, they treated the people, the Indian tribals also in the same way. So all these people, they were, branded as criminals. See, because the people who live in the forest, they obviously carry, bows and arrows. They carry their weapons, and British, they wanted to rule. They were afraid of these people. So they were branded as criminals. They were called as the criminal tribes. In 1836, the act came, the Criminal Tribes Act, and it went on until 1947. They called it as the Thuggees problem. So people who had to, cross the forests, they encountered the tribes of those forests. And what by this act, actually, what the British did was they made the whole tribes as criminals. They said the whole tribes were criminals. Just being born in that tribe was being, a criminal. They couldn't go out of their marked areas. They had to go and report to the police station. All the males, they had to go and report to the police station every month or whatever. So, and by the time of independence, by 1947, our population, for the population of India, was around 30 crore. And at that time, about 1.5 crore belonged to the so-called criminal tribes. This is how the British treated the tribals of India. Now, see, the people who are living in the forest, some of these tribes, they did live by looting the travelers who went through the forest. So India had this problem, and the Indian solution. Look at the Indian solution. The British solution was to brand them as criminals, and treat them as such. The Indian solution, we find one one incidence in the Ramayana. So there is this Adbhut Ramayana, 15th century. It has the story of uh, Valya Koi, or he's called as dacoit Ratnakar. Yeah, and that Ramayana has a story that Valmiki. No, he's not called Valmiki at that time. He's called Valya. He is a forest dweller, and what he does is he loots the people who are traveling through the forest. And then one day it is Narad Muni. He is traveling through the forest, and Valya stops him. And Valya says to him, give me all whatever belongs to you. So Narad Muni gives his Veena. He has, that's all what he has. He gives the Veena and very calmly he says to Valya, you must have accumulated so much pap by, looting the travelers. And Valya says, don't you worry. I am doing this for my family, for my parents, for my children. They will take a share of my pap. Narad Muni says, well, I don't really think so. Why don't you go and check? So Valya goes home and he asks his parents and children and wife, and they all say, it's your duty to take care of us. So whatever you are doing, we will not, take a share of your part. That opens the eyes of Valya. He comes back to Valmiki. He comes back to Narad Muni and says, tell me what I should do. So then Narad Muni tells him, you sit over here and chant the name of Ram. And with that, you will be able to get lose all that path that you have accumulated. You will become a punyavan person. So Valya says, okay, I will chant the name of Ram, but I am such a papi person. Yeah, how can I chant that? And so Narad Muni tells him, okay, if you don't want to say Ram, Ram, say Mara, Mara. And then Valya sits over there and starts singing Mara, 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 Mara. It becomes Ram, Ram. And for years together, he chants the name of Ram. And that transforms him into a Rishi. This is the story. This is the Indian solution. This is the Indian solution where, a tribal who has taken up looting as a livelihood gets transformed into a Rishi, into a Kavi who writes an epic. And this is like, this is a story from some ancient Ramayana. But if we take a look at the modern solutions, we have Ahilya Bai Holkar. So Ahilya Bai Holkar is ruling Malwa, and there are so many tribal communities around central India. So there are Bhil and Gond and so many other people. And there were some communities who used to loot people who traveled through the forest. And Ahilya Bai comes up with a solution saying that all these people, she gives them the right to collect tax from the travelers. And that transforms them from a looter to a protector of the travelers. This is the Indian solution, bringing them into mainstream. She also, gives them the options of doing farming, offers them a new livelihood so that they can live a dignified life. Same thing we see in the life of Rani Rashmani and of Bengal. She transformed a community in Sundarban into a fishing community. These are the Indian solutions. This is the Indian view of tribals. For the Europeans, the forest is a wild place. Its animals are wild, fierce, and its people who live in the forest are tribes. They are savage people. They're barbarians. And to them, all these people, they were savage and barbarian. And this is exactly what they did when they went to the America. And this is what the American tribes, they say. This is a quote from a American Indian or a Red Indian, you can say. They said that only to the white man was the nature wilderness, and only to him It was infested with wild animals, and its people were savage. To us, it was tame. The earth was bountiful, and we were surrounded with the blessings of the great mystery. This is how everybody else has looked upon. All the ancient civil cultures, they have looked upon the forest and the people of forest. They find forest as something which is beautiful. It's the same thing with us. Indians, Hindus, we we find one as a beautiful place. So all our heroes, yeah, the heroes of Ramayana and Mahabharata, Ram and Lakshman and Sita and Draupadi and the Yudhishthir and Bhim and Arjun, they all go to the forest for Vanavas. They also are Vanavasi for some time in their life. So our heroes go to the Van. Our heroes go to the forest. They live there. They stay there. And then we are, the our life. It has three milestones. You can say there is one part which is the Brahmacharya ashram where one learns in Gurukuls, and then there is one part which is Grihastha ashram, which is like the professional life, the married life, and then the third part which is the retired life. It is Vanaprastha ashram. It is supposed to be lived in the forest, and even the Vedas have like four books, four parts. So one part is the Samhita part. The second part is the Brahmana Grantha. The third part is the Aranyaka, and the fourth part is the Upanishads. One part of the Veda, which is the Aranyaka, these books are to be studied in the Aranya. You go to the solitude of Aranya, and there you study these books. Aranyaka. Yes, and so thus for us, the Vana, it is not a wild place. We have different names for it. It is a Shri Vana because it gives so many, it gives medicines, it gives roots and fruits. Yeah, it's a Shri Vana. It is Mahavana, it is Tapovana where one goes and does meditation. And even our gardens, our gardens, we don't call them, bagicha. Bagicha is a Farsi word. Our word for a garden is a Upvana. Yeah, so we love the forest. And then we have traditions such as Vana Bhojan. So we'll go for a picnic and have a lunch in the Vana. Or we will have Vana Vihar. So together we will go to the forest and roam around over there for a while. Vana Vihar. And we have deities of the forest. So we have Vana Devi. So many of them. There are so many folk devatas also. Vana devatas. Even in Rigveda, there is one devata called as the Aranyani. Yeah, she is the goddess of Aranya. So there is a sukta in Rigveda for the devata of Aranya. And our beloved God, Krishna, he loves the flowers from Vana, the wild flowers that grow in the Vana. He'll wear a mala of it. So he's called Vanamali. We are so much connected, so much associated with the Vana. For us, Vana is a part of our life. This is the Indian view of Vana. So Vana is not the wild, Vana is not the wilderness, it is not the wastelands. Vana is a Shri Vana, the place which has a Shri, which has Lakshmi, which has prosperity, which gives medicine. Our god of medicine is Dhanavantari. So it is the Dhana in the Vana. Vana ke andar jo dhana hai, that is the medicine. So for us, Vana is a repository of all these. And the people who live in the Vana, they are Vanavasi. They are not tribes. They are Vanavasis. And these people who live in the forest, they are cultured. They have agriculture. They have their own industries. They have their arts and crafts. They have their oral traditions. They have their literature. These are the Vanavasis. And so, because they have all these things, among their oral traditions, they have Ramayana. They have stories of Ramayana. So today we are going to take a look at these stories of Ramayana among the Vanavasis. So we start by prayer to Valmiki, praising him. Pujantam Rama Rameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakham Vande Valmiki Kokilam. He is the Kokila who is singing the name of Ram, the Madhura Akshar of Ram. And he writes the Ramakatha. Now the Valmiki Ramayana begins uh, with this event, with this prasangam, where Valmiki is going to the Tamsa river for a bath. Along with him is his Shishya Bharadwaj. Together, as they're walking towards Tamsa river, on a tree, Valmiki sees a pair of crowned birds. And they are into love play, they're singing, they're in the beautiful manner. And suddenly, out of nowhere, Anisha strikes down the male bird. And the male bird falls to the ground, wounded, covered in blood. And the female bird is devastated by that. And she cries like anything. Vilapa karti hai. Valmiki sees this drishya and he is filled with anger, he's filled with sadness. And in that shok of his, he curses the Nishad. I think this curse also goes to all those people who killed so many Hindus yesterday in Pahalgam. The curse is Ma Nishad Pratishtham. You will never get peace, O Nishad, because you killed one of those birds, one pair, one of the birds in that pair. So now this event, it occurs in Vana. Ramayana begins in the Vana. Ramayana begins in the Vana. And then there is this another event which occurs in the Vana. That is when King Dashrath. So this is that hunting episode in Ramayana. When Dashrath goes for a hunt, and it's night time, and he is waiting for an animal to come for a drink. It's Shravan Bal, Shravan Kumar, who comes over there to collect water for his parents. And Dashrath hears that sound, and he throws his arrow, which kills Shravan Kumar. And then his parents curse Dashrath. Just before dying, they curse Dashrath, saying that you too shall die due to separation from your son. This event also occurs in Vana. When we start looking at Ramayana, one by one episode, they are occurring in the Vana. The Tadakavadha. So here is the Tadaka Rakshasi. She has destroyed two Janapada, Malada and Karusha. She, because of her terror, people living in those two towns, they have run away. And then she moves from there to the Vana. And, even that Vana is devastated. It is destroyed because of Tadaka. And that is why Vishwamitra comes to the king Dashrath saying, give me Ram. He must slay Tadaka and save the Vana and save the Janapada of Malada and Karusha. So this is the first parakram of Ram. The first parakram of Ram is he actually hesitates. He actually hesitates when he has to slay a woman. But then Vishwamitra tells him that she is atrocious to the society. And that is why you must kill her. You must not think whether she is it is a male or a female. And this is the first parakrama from. He slays Tadaka, he saves the forest, and he saves even these two Janapada of Malad and Karush. This event again, it happens in the Vana. And then there are some events that happen in the palace, in the urban areas. So there is the Janaki Vivaha, which happens in Mithila, the palace of Mithila. Then there is the, for a while, almost for a year, Ram and Sita, they are living in the palace in Ayodhya. So these are the some events which do take place in the urban areas. And then again, it is Kaikai who asks for two wounds. She says that Ram must go to Vanavas for 15 years, for 14 years. And Bharat must be crowned as the king. So Ram, Lakshman and Sita, they leave Vanavas. Again, the story moves from the urban area to the rural, and from there into the Vana area, to the forest. So he has friends. Ram has friends. His first friend is King Guha. So Guha is a king of the tribe. He is a king of the Nishad. We encounter all these kings of Nishad, or the kings of the tribal kings. Let me say, when I have to put it in English, it has to be a tribal king. So many of them, they are our heroes. Ram and Guha, they are friends. And Guha, calls for his ministers and says, make a boat ready for Ram because he wants to cross it. So the minister readies a boat, and then the boatman is called, and then the boatman takes them across the river Ganga. So so Guha is not the boatman as Guha appears in the later Ramayanas, but Guha is a king. Similarly, in the story of Nala Damayanti, Nala is a Nishada king. He is a king of the forest. So we have had Vanavasis being king, and Vanavasis also being our heroes. So Nala Damayanti are our heroes. Not just our heroes. They are heroes for Ram and Sita too. When Sita says that she is going to follow Ram to the forest, she gives the example of Damayanti. She says, Damayanti had earlier followed Nala to the forest. I too shall follow my husband to the forest. So Vanavasi kings are also our heroes. It's not just the urban kings who are our heroes. So here we have Guha, who is a Vanavasi and a friend of Ram. And then the prasanga of Bharat Milam, that too occurs in the forest around Chitrakoot. So and when Bharat comes over there, Ram is asking Bharat so many questions whether you are taking care of the kingdom well. So when he is asking Bharat, he says, I hope you are taking care of the city of Ayodhya, of the citizens of Ayodhya, of the animals in Ayodhya, of the trees that are planted along the roadsides in Ayodhya. And along with that, Ram says, are you taking care of the forests which are around Ayodhya? So it is the duty of a king to take care of the forests as well. So Vana is an integral part of even the Rajadharma. And then, of course, we have Ram moving to the south, Sita getting abducted by Ravan, and then Ram joins hands with the Vanar king of south. So we have a king from north joining hands with a king of south, and together they vanquish of Paranpa, the king of the golden city of Lanka. So these are our long stories. This is how we have been at all the times. And then we come to the Mahabharata times. And in Mahabharata, after the game of dice, the Pandav and Draupadi, they are staying in the Vanvas for 12 years. So during that time, Yudhishthir is very depressed. So he is speaking with Markandeya Rishi. So see, all these rishis are also living in the forest. So he is around. And Yudhishthir is asking Markandeya Rishi, um, I I feel so sad. I'm distressed that it is because of me that my brothers and my wife, Draupadi, we have had to live in the forest. And even this Jayadrath, he tried to kidnap Draupadi. Have you ever seen any king um, who is like more uh, who on whom so many things have befallen? And to this, Markandeya Rishi says, "Oh wait, listen to the story of Ram." And then he tells the whole of Ramayana, 700 shlok. He tells the Ramayana. So the first Ramayana, as we know, which is being retold during the Mahabharata times, that retelling is happening in the forest. And of course, it is not just Yudhishthir who is listening to it. It is Yudhishthir and the other Pandavas who are listening to it. And there, of course, there are people who are living in the forest, the Vanavasis, who are also listening to the Valmiki Ramayana from Markandeya Rishi. So this whole story of Ramayana, it only few parts occur in the urban areas, and most of the Ramayana is occurring in the forest. So the Vanavasis, they are the they are witnesses to Ramayana. They have seen Ramayana firsthand, and thus, just as we have Nagari Ramayana, the Ramayana written by Bhas and Ramayana written by Kalidas and Tulsidas Goswami and all the other poets, we also have Ramayana written in the regional languages, in the Sangam literature, in the Katha Saptashati, the Maharashtrian Prakrit language. We also have Ramayana written in the not written it in the oral traditions of so many Vanavasi communities. So there is this Gond Ramayana of Madhya Pradesh, and this Gond Ramayana is called as Ramayani. Just as Mahabharata is called as Pandavani, the Ramayana is called Ramayana. And this is an oral account which is shared by the Gond Pradhans and priests. And this Ramayana begins after Sita is released from the clutches of Ravan. And then we have Ram, Lakshman, and Sita who are living in a Paranakuti in the Vana. And in this Ramayana, it is Lakshman who plays the lead role. So this has the story of Gond Ramayana. It goes as there is Indrakam, the daughter of Indra, who falls in love with Lakshman. So one day she comes in search of Lakshman, and she finds him sleeping. So what she does is she tries to wake up Lakshman. But somehow Lakshman does not wake up at all. So she gets very angry. And what she does is she throws her clothes and her jewelry in that kuti where Lakshman is sleeping, and she goes away. Really. Sometime later, Sita comes and sees that, and she draws her own conclusions. And so what she does is she calls Bhim. So a character from Mahabharata comes over here, and she tells Bhim, see, something has occurred, needs to be taken care of. And then Bhim goes to Ram and tells him that, see what people are saying about Lakshman. You need to take care of this. So what happens in this Ramayana is Lakshman has to give Agni Pariksha. And of course, Lakshman gives the Agni Pariksha and comes out of it, with flying colors. So that's the story from the Gond Ramayana. The people of Mizoram also, they have their own Ramayana, Mizo Ramayana. And in this, Lakshman is called Khena. Lakhan becomes Khena. So there is Ram and Khena. So even if they have become Christians now, they have their epic which has been passed on to generations. So in this Mizo Ramayana, Sita, the challenge for marrying Sita is different. So Sita is sitting in an iron box. It's a very heavy box, and whosoever can lift that box will get to marry her. So of course, it is it is Ram who is able to fulfill that challenge, and Ram gets to marry Sita. And then Ram and Cain and Sita, they are sent to the forest, and there Lusahira is Ravan. Lusahira kidnaps Sita. So then, actually, Lusahira takes the form of the golden deer, and instead of Marich becoming the golden deer, it is Ravan himself who becomes the golden deer in this Ramayana. So, anyways, then Ram and Lakshman, they go in search of Sita. They meet Hanuman, and Hanuman helps them to find Sita. So then they go to Lanka. They defeat Ravan, and there is this war with Ravan. So now, because this is an oral tradition, what happens is it keeps on changing with time. So in this Ramayana, we have Ram and Lakshman fighting not only with bows and arrows and spears, but they also have guns. So this is the Meso Ramayana. And then Ram rescues Sita, and then they come back to Ayodhya, and all of them, they live happily together. So this is the Meso Ramayana. And then we have the Karbis of Assam, who also have their Ramayana. So now the Karbis of Assam, they associate themselves to Ram. So they say that since Treta Yuga, we are here, and our ancestors had helped Ram in the battle against Ravan. Our ancestors had provided Ram with bows and arrows, and that is why they got the name as Karbi. So in this Karbi Ramayana, Dashrath gets a fruit, orange, after the Putra Kamishti Yagya, and he gives that orange to his 3 wives. So after eating that orange, they get pregnant, the wives get pregnant, and they give birth to these 4 princes. So now after Ram is born, in Lanka, what happens is, this is the story the Karbi Ramayana tells. What happens in Lanka is the crown of Ravan falls down. Vibhishan says this is a bad omen, and henceforth, dear brother, you should be very careful, and you shouldn't do any adharmic kritya. You should always be doing righteous things only. Of course, Ravan gets very angry, and he exiles Vibhishan. So then Vibhishan comes and meets Ram, and he takes sides with Ram, etc. So that's the story which comes in the Karbi Ramayana. Now, amongst the Karbi people, they have this tradition that the boy who wants to marry, he should stay in the house of his in-laws for some time. He should stay over there, and he should prove that he can do the work in the farms. He is capable of doing that. So in the Karbi Ramayana, we find Ram coming to the house of Janak and staying there for some time. And after Janak says that, yes, he can take care of all the activities at home and even in the farm, then he is good to marry my daughter. So that's what we find in the Karbi Ramayana. And then we have the Khamti Ramayana of Arunachal Pradesh. So this is a Buddhist version of Ramayana. So amongst all these Ramayanas, there are some Buddhist versions, there are some Jain versions as well. So in this version, Sita is called Thida, Lakshman becomes Litkhana, and Ravan is called Dathagiri. So these are the stories of Ramayana that we find amongst the various uh, various Vanavasi communities. In the south, in Kerala, there is a Ramayana in the Wayanad area. So in this Ramayana, what we find is that all the events of Ramayana, they take place in that area only. So Sita is born nearby. There is the Dandakaranya where they are sent to the forest is also nearby. Lanka is also nearby. So all of them, they happen in that area itself. And now, very interestingly, uh, in this Ramayana, it's Ram and Sita when they are like, talking to each other. Sita brings a cup of coffee and serves coffee to Ram. These are some so such wonderful things that we see in these Ramayana, in these Vanvasi retellings of Ramayana, which directly connect to us. They directly connect us to what is going on today. So we have Ramayana among so many Vanvasi tribes. So there is a Ramakatha in Manipur, which is presented in the form of song and dance and drama. Then the Garos of Meghalaya, they have their own Ramakatha. The Kerala Vanvasi community, they have their own Ramakatha. And then there are other communities also, like, the Bhil, the Munda, the Santhal, the Sauras, the Kurkus, the Bodo, the Khasi, the Meiti. All of them, they have their own Ramakatha in their uh, in their literature, in their oral literature. In Gujarat, there is the Konkan Vanvasi Ramayana. In Malayalam, there is another Vanvasi Ramayana. And in that Vanvasi Ramayana, uh, Hanuman says, I want to sit at the feet of Ram at all the times. Why? Because anytime Ram sneezes, I want to uh, wish that Ram has a long life. That is why I want to sit at the feet of Ram. So, such beautiful stories they are woven in these Vanvasi Ramayana. And they will sing Ramayan, they will dance Ramayan, and they will tell the story of Ramayan through various dramas as well. So even when we come to the folk songs, we will have the story of Ram. So in Maharashtra, we have Bhondlachi Gani. So these are the songs that are sung by uh, young girls during the Navratri. And among these songs, we will find Ram and Sita. So Ram and Sita mentioned, events from Ramayana mentioned. So there is this one song which is like, Sitecha hati fulanचा गजरा, Ramacha hati बाण, धाडू नको वनी राम. So this is a request to Kaikai. So these little girls, they are telling Kaikai that don't send Ram to Vanvas. You don't know what is going to befall upon Sita when you send her to the forest. Don't send her. Dear Kaikai, please don't send Ram to Sita. Noko dhadu vani Ram. So many different folk songs we will find that mention Ram and Sita. They mention the stories of Ramayana. Even in Mangalashtaka, which are sung during weddings, there is a mention of Ram and Sita. Or the Banna Banni songs in the north, they will mention Ram and Sita. Then other folk songs, like I'm mentioning this from Maharashtra, which are the Zatyavarcha Ovya. So these songs, they also will tell the story of Ram. So here is one Banna Banni song. राम जी के शीश पे मुकुट बिराजे, सीता जी ने मोतियों से मांग भराई, सिया बनी दुल्हन, दुल्हा रघुराई. So the Vadhu and Var, they are considered Vishnu and Lakshmi. They are considered Ram and Sita. And this is how we see, the story of Ramayana in not only amongst the not only in the urban literature, in the classical literature, but also in the rural folk songs, folk arts, and oral traditions, and also amongst the Vanvasis, amongst the forest tribes of India. So wherever you go in India, whether it is in Rajasthan, whether it is in Gujarat, whether it is in Northeast, whether it is in deep South, all not only the uh, urban people, but the Vanavasis will also connect themselves to Ram. They have their own stories of Ram. They have their own stories of the Ramayana in their oral traditions, which are handed down from one generation to the other. And thus, I would just end on a note saying that if there is one story which unites us across India, north to south, east to west, the urbans, the rurals, and the Vanvasis, all of them together, it is the story of Ramayana. And with this, I'll stop over here. Dhanyavad.